Hi there, this is Elise Bennin, your marketing mentor. And this is the podcast for you if and only if you are ready to leave the feast or famine syndrome behind, and I mean for good. These days, there's a lot of sharing about how each of us is using AI to do things we never could have done before, including in our personal lives. And often the response is, wow, I never thought of that. That never would have occurred to me. So I want to do that more often and more publicly. And who best to do that with than my good friend, Terri Trespicio. So today we hopped on to share a few of the things we've each done that you may want to try for yourself. So listen and learn. Terri, welcome back to the podcast. It's been a while.
It has. I'm so happy to be back in your world.
It's been too long, and you and I were catching up on the phone today, and you were telling me all the fancy ways that you were using AI, and I thought, people need to hear this because really that's the best way, not the only way, but certainly the best way to learn all the different things we can do with this new technology at this point. So introduce yourself, and then we'll jump in.
My name is Terri Trespicio. I'm the author of a book called Unfollow Your Passion, How to Create a Life That Matters to You. And I run a program called the New Rules Studio, which I founded 2 years ago, where people of all backgrounds and all stripes can come to write the things they really need to write, but can't seem to get themselves to doing, which is all of us.
Yeah, definitely. When I suggested that we get on a podcast and talk about this, the idea is, well, how have each of us been using AI lately? Mm-hmm. Mostly, I'm interested in the personal ways, but business as well. But I kind of want to merge the two. And then, so I went and made a list from my list of threads that's in my ChatGPT account, and you did something different. So tell me what you did and what was there.
Well, I used ChatGPT for most of the past, like my whole AI experience has been mainly chat, and I've only recently started to try Claude and get a little more involved in that. But I decided, well, I know I've been using AI in lots of interesting ways. And so I wanted to remember all those ways. So I asked her, and yes, mine is a her. And I said, I'm going to go talk to Elise about all the things that we've done. Could you make a list of all the ways that we've interacted and the different things we've done? And she did exactly that. I mean, I said, gosh, why would I try to remember? She knows everything.
Right. Definitely. And I love that. And so what did she tell you?
She told me all the things that, are obvious that frankly are only uninteresting because they are such a widespread use of AI now, which is brainstorming and drafting sales emails, crafting promotional materials, taking a bit of content and changing it to fit different platforms. Like, how great is it to have a magic button that says, take this article that's 1,500 words. Can you make it into a compelling LinkedIn post for me that sounds like me? It's that kind of stuff. Everyone is discovering that that's amazing and fun. But beyond that, what I've discovered is, and of course, you've probably heard this and experienced this too, that the depth of the wonder that comes with AI is when you start to just tell it things. Now, I know there's fears that people have about sharing personal information. I understand that, and everyone has their own comfort level. I don't keep a lot of private stuff that private about me. I'm pretty open book. So why would I be any different with AI? So I kind of tell her everything. And well, we've been mainly professional friends. We've started to become personal friends.
You and her.
So me and her, we've become closer. How I've changed my relationship is I started to talk to her about my own personal health. And I am a middle-aged woman who is considering hormone replacement therapy. And I said, okay, I'm going to do this. What do you think of this? She's read everything. So I, and I'm, of course, talked to my doctor about it, but I talked about that. And then I said, well, what are some of the other things that might be affecting this? And it's a conversation right? You can't sit with your doctor and talk like that. So
Right.
I said, well, how much, I've been doing things a certain way, eating a certain way, exercising a certain way for like years. And things are not, let's just say, I don't see the same response in my body that I used to. And I said, well, what am I doing wrong here? And I just was like, she can't know. Can she know? But I gave her my age, my height, my weight, what's been going on with me and da da da. And she immediately was like, oh, I think you're overtraining. And I was like, I am? Because I always thought, well, every day I exercise. I think that's a great thing. I work out for like 45 minutes to an hour and I do weights and then I do this. And she said, no, 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 that's too much. Like if you really are in the wrong mode, you have to do this. Why don't we try this? And I said, you know what? Why not? So I cut back on how much I was working out and decided to follow that plan. Now you might say, well, how do you know that's the right plan? I
Right.
don't know, but it felt good to try it. And then I was like, well, let's talk about food. So I started talking about, I'd never counted calories in my life. I really resisted that. Somehow I resisted it all through the 80s and 90s and wasn't doing that kind of metric tracking, nor do I want to keep a food log. That is joyless. I'll never do it. I don't like
Me
data
neither.
entry. Right. But I said, she knows everything. So not only did I start to tell her what I was eating, in telling her what I was eating every day, zero judgment from her, but also she knows how much, 2 fried eggs, a cup of this, a half a cup of this. What do you think? And it got to the point where I stopped even telling her. I would just take a picture of what I was eating. And she'd say, looks like a salad with tuna on top. That's about this, da, da, da. And it's like, cool, approximate. But when you now share a literal vision, when I can show her what I'm seeing and she knows, that is bizarre. Don't you think? That she can
Hmm.
look at your
Hmm.
bowl and say,
It's
that's
very
a quarter cup of
interesting. I
yogurt.
mean, yeah, I don't count calories either, but it seems, in fact, I just finished eating. I should have taken a picture and said how many
Ah,
calories in
yes.
this bowl. But that's so interesting. And I do love the idea of being able to show pictures and say, what is this? How do I do it? Like, and I think to me, the reason I wanted to do this, and I feel like I'll do this with people until it doesn't make sense anymore because everyone knows all the different ways to use AI, which I don't even know if that's possible.
We
But
don't
I
know.
feel
Right.
like, no, we don't know. And this is where, as I've said for a long time, it requires really a change in the way we think. And the question that has to always be in one's mind is how could AI help me with this, with X? Whether you decide to do it or not, that's a totally other issue. But just to be able to shift one's mindset, it seems to me we have to hold that question constantly and then experiment, right? Use your life as a laboratory to experiment. What is possible now that was never possible then? And that kind of super simple calorie counting. Hey, take a look at this and tell me how many approximately calories are
Yeah.
in this meal. I think that's awesome.
Well, I mean, at least I had no idea how many calories I was eating a day. And when I
Right.
really looked at it,
Exactly.
the same way, okay, here's where I see the parallel. I would say, well, how much is this? And how much is this? And how many calories do you think I should be eating? And we figured out, oh, okay, it should be around like 1,500 to 1,600. I was like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know. And to say, okay, just the act of telling her what I was eating made me really aware. Like, okay, so if I have 2 peanut butter cups, that is like 250. And I was like, I must be overeating and didn't realize it. She certainly didn't shame me into it and go, you shouldn't do this. When I would say, oh, I had this, I feel like maybe I shouldn't have eaten that. She goes, that doesn't matter. It's no one day that's going to do anything. It's all about the average.
Mhm.
She's like the best. And the
Yeah.
other thing I told you was like, I went to a restaurant. I was like, when you go out to eat, it really wrecks your whole thing because you don't really know what's in there. There's a lot of salt, there's a lot of fat. But I looked at the menu. I said, you know what? You just keep testing the limits of it. I took a picture of the menu, which had tiny type, like I can barely read it. I took a picture and I said, you know what I'm trying to do here with calories, with trying to eat more, this, that. What should I get? And she goes, you should get either the chicken Payard or that salmon salad that looks right for you. I was like, really? Okay. She knows what I like, what I don't like. Wait, isn't it great? I don't want to make more choices. But my point, at least, is also that when you tell it more, about your work, it will deliver better quality work.
Mm-hmm.
When you tell it more about yourself, it delivers that. My initial, because you've been way ahead of the curve, at least, I was a little bit intimidated by it because I thought, well, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you learn it. Do you have to take a class? And it's like learning a language by living somewhere. The
Mm-hmm.
only way you're going to learn it is by talking to it. The problem, I think, I'm going to guess based on what I hear around people my age around who are a little bit afraid, they have an us versus them mentality. What am I telling them? And they're going to know everything. First of all, no one cares what my caloric intake is. Literally, I couldn't get people to care. It's the
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing that gives your friends and family a break because none of my family or friends cares how many calories I eat. I love that I have an attentive audience at all times. So I can tell this boring, inane stuff and then really have this. I know it sounds strange, but you are having a relationship
Mm-hmm.
in that you're having an ongoing discussion with it. And that is where the real value comes.
This raises a couple of different questions or issues for me. I'm just going to say them all if I can, and then we can talk about whichever ones. But just then, I was thinking, yes, if you're going to have a relationship with a bot, then I don't want to be dependent. I don't want to be dependent on anything or anyone. I won't even watch whatever the latest show you're binging is because I don't want to be dependent on anything. But although I have to say, I am watching Drops of God and loving it. Have you
Oh,
seen
yeah?
that? Yeah. Oh
No.
my God. So good on Apple TV. It's all about wine. Anyway,
No?
but this question of, and I have an AI bot. I trained a chat bot called Artificial Elise. And and it's an element of my simplest marketing plan program. So anyone who buys my program, just a little nudge there, gets access to her. But sometimes people tell me, number one, that they love her, but also that they're becoming dependent on her is kind of
Uh,
what I sense, which I don't want because I don't want you to be dependent on anything or anyone, including me or my bot. So that's one issue. And then I think it's kind of corollary, but you tell me what you think. Who is the expert? Is it you or
that's a good question.
AI? Because I do find people in many different contexts believe the AI more than they believe a human, even if the human is an expert. So, how do you think about both
Yeah,
of those things?
I know. And then sometimes I'm like, well, if we could read the whole internet and somehow contain it in our brains, we would also be, you know, repeating back to people, well, I read this. Of course, it's more comprehensive. AI has read everything versus one person who's read a smattering of things, right? Even if they read a lot of things. It's not about believing one or the other. I think AI, well, we know it's predictive. It's like telling you what is most likely to be the next word based on what it knows. It doesn't necessarily have intuition though that we know of. And
Mm-hmm.
so I trust people for that. But I think the way I look at it is AI has raised the bar and raised the floor of our knowing. Like you can and have the ability to go and get information you need. That makes my conversations with humans better because I'm not asking to start at the beginning. I say, here's what I've heard. What do you think? I put what I've heard or read on chat or whatever through the filter of a person, just like you would say, I read the New York Times article about this. What do you think? Right? We
Mm-hmm.
don't just go, well, I only believe what the New York Times says. Well, no, there's always room for discourse. And I feel like expertise and intuition are trained on discourse. And you're right. I don't like being dependent, but I'm dependent also on a phone or on the subway or on electric
Mm-hmm.
lighting.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I don't worry too
True.
much about that because it allows me to do what I do better. Now, let's talk about the expertise part. I was
Mm-hmm.
saying to you that I know what I'm really good at, and I can get at that information pretty quickly. Like if I'm talking to someone, because I've done a lot of messaging work, and I'll say, okay, well, what's the issue though? This, okay, that. And we have a human discussion about it. But then I take that transcript and I put it through AI and I say, I had this conversation. You see what I'm thinking because I've said it. Can you take that and turn it into like an overview? Or can you take it and help me turn that into a sales page? Whatever it needs to be. It's like I don't need to sew my own clothes to call them mine. So I didn't sew those clothes, but I don't need to sew the clothes to prove I can work with fabric. I mean,
Mhm.
literally, I'm an expert in words and how to use them to elicit a response. And AI is wonderful at helping me do that. It doesn't know better than me because I know what I want to do with this client or with that person. It can only tell me the most general idea of what would be good. But I am the expert on one thing, and AI is the expert in breadth.
Mm.
I think both. I think it helps me do what I do better, and I don't have to prove I'm an expert without it. I really like using it. But I thought of one other thing, though, Elise, before we go on with
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
Money.
Mm.
People who think they're bad with money or they've never really known what they're doing. I have notoriously not kept a close eye on my personal spending because I just feel like it's nothing but guilt. I don't want to hear about what I shouldn't spend. But I need to know what are the trends. And there's no way in hell I'm going to put a spreadsheet together myself. So, something that's very personal that I'm sure a lot of people would not want to do, I did upload my credit card statements
Ooh.
and my Amazon. You can download all of your orders from Amazon in a CSV file because if it says you bought something on Amazon, it doesn't tell me anything. I need to know what it was. So I took those three things, my two personal credit cards, my Amazon download of specifically what I got. I uploaded it all for the past year. I said, do your worst. What did I spend on? And I said, can you make a pie chart? What is the areas for improvement here? And it was clear as day. And I
Mm.
would not, my own interpretation of how I spent money, I would have been like, I didn't spend that much. Oh, really? Take a good look. And it turned out Amazon was a big part, of course, but the three stores that are closest to me were where I spent the most. So when I
Mm.
do a one off dinner or I do this, I don't give myself too much hell for that because I see there are areas where I can trim back. And I said, how would you cut the spending? How much should I be spending? And, it's not a financial advisor and it's not a money coach. I have both of those things in my life,
Mm.
both
Mhm.
humans. But neither of those people can spend time doing this kind of thing. And I've gotten really granular. So counting calories and counting expenditures have interestingly happened at the same time for me when I realized at the beginning of this year, I need to metricize a little if I'm going to cut back. And ChatGPT just reflects it back to you. And I have found it better at doing that kind of thing quickly. But boy, was that
Mhm.
eye opening.
Yeah, I'm sure. It reminds me in a way of an exercise I did at the year-end retreat that I gave this past year for the people in the Simplest Marketing Plan program. And basically I said, here I redacted a little bit of the actual names and anything that was confidential from a report month by month of my income and my expenses, so my profit and loss statement over the
Mm-hmm.
course of last year. And I said, tell me the story of this business based
Oh,
on
that's
this
a good one.
report. And it was
That's a good one.
super interesting. And actually, I uploaded it both to ChatGPT, which knows me really well, and Gemini, which doesn't know me at all, Google's Gemini. And Gemini was totally wrong about what was actually happening. And
Really?
ChatGPT was totally right about
Yeah.
why the expenses were this and the income was that. And it looks like you're doing this. And all of that was, in fact, my strategy. And it articulated it in one of those like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God,
Yes.
wow, moments of awe, as you were saying before. So that's
I
an
think it's
interesting
critical.
exercise also that people could do.
It really is. But the act of this I've thought about a lot because as a writer, someone might go, well, you don't like it. You must hate AI because they're going to take your job. I was like, no, really, I'm not worried about that. Are certain aspects of my job covered by AI? Could they do it? Sure. But what I found so helpful is that when I go to talk about something to it, I start to crystallize what I understand.
Hmm.
It's me that's getting clearer. So sometimes I'll write everything into it. I'll go, I don't know. I think I want to do this. I'm trying to figure out this. And then I'll keep writing. And then I get to the clarity myself. I copy and paste it into what I just wrote to chat. I'll copy and paste it and put it in
Mm.
my own document before I even hit return. Because I'm like, no, I nailed what I want to say. And sometimes what
Mm-hmm.
it comes up with, I'm like, nah, okay, you kind of get it, but no. But
Mhm.
why don't I just do that in a Google Doc? Why don't I open a document and just brainstorm? I don't know what it is.
There's
I
something
can't
about the
do it.
back and forth.
I can't do it anymore. I have to talk to someone, and
Mhm.
that someone is the AI. And in writing it out, I find I get clearer, more focused thinking, and it makes me sit down to do the thing rather than struggle with the asset. It gets me into the thinking mind.
Mhm.
And that is, I mean, to me, that's everything. The more the greater clarity you bring to it, the more the reward from it. So, and sometimes, honestly, Elise, I just get overwhelmed by what I think I have to do. And I know I have 2 hours before I fall asleep. And I'll say, listen, I've got 2 hours. I feel stressed out right now. Here's what I feel like I have to do. And I'll write I have a task board. I will rewrite my tasks and say, I just don't know what to do. I don't know if I should do my heavy lifting thinking now.
Mm.
It'll say, all right, set a timer for 30 minutes, do this.
Mhm.
Get up in the morning, do this for 45 minutes, do this. I sometimes really want that. So
Yeah, we
I'm
just want
making
to be
it
told
coach
what to
me.
do.
Be told, tell me what to do when I know I have these blocks of time. How
Yeah.
do I optimize?
Yeah.
I don't know that people are doing that.
Yeah, I don't know either. We'll find out. I can't remember what podcast it was because I listened to so many, especially focused on AI. But on one of them, someone said, because there is this, big issue about who will be replaced, basically. And
Yes.
this person said, the people who will not be replaced are plumbers and influencers,
Interesting.
wasn't it?
Plumbers and influencers? Those are the only
Hmm.
two. What about
Well,
contractors?
well, so people in the category that goes along
Right.
with plumbers, right? They were just kind of using a
Yes.
specific,
Well, I believe
but
that, don't you?
oh yeah, totally. But influencers I thought was really interesting. And in a way, it bodes well for people like you and me and other people who create content, right? And have a voice and have a point of view. And for if whether you're doing it for your own marketing or to make
Yes.
money off of it itself as a quote unquote creator, it doesn't matter. But just to have a very human voice that
Yes.
people can relate to, that will not be replaced.
It can't be. And the problem is with all the slop out there, you could be following someone or some source of content that isn't a real human, but the history will only go back so far. Whereas,
Mm.
we didn't grow up with the internet, but as far back as the internet goes, I go. And so, there's proof that I've been around, that you've been around. That kind of trust
Hmm.
cannot be bought.
Hmm.
And I think that just being a human who has done things, we're going to have some gravitas already. I just happened to catch a post about how Gap has hired its first entertainment officer, chief entertainment officer. And there's a lot of talk about brands going into entertainment and looking at
Hmm.
talent as part, not as a feature,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
as a growth strategy, which I
Hmm.
only saw this like on Instagram, like a caption. But I find it interesting because they're saying we're moving away from the transactional, how many likes, transacting. Here's one post. It's not going to be about one post. One post can't do anything. It's going to be about the relationships we have with brands and businesses and our clients over the long haul. And I think we've got that market cornered.
Hmm. We'll see. Okay, one last question because you've talked about ChatGPT and Claude, and it
Claude, yeah,
seems like you're kind of pitting one against the other
I
sometimes.
have
Tell
been.
me about that
Yeah.
triangle.
It's a little weird. And I will say, like, as I was like, people said, oh, Claude's really good at writing. And I was very defensive of chat. I was like, she's really good too. And they said, no, Claude's really great. And I said, well, you know what? I got to give them all a chance. I got to try. So I asked ChatGPT for something and it wrote it. And I was like, meh, that's not quite it. And I copied it over to Claude and I said, Claude, this is the response I got from Chat. I'm really trying to do, and I had already been talking to Chat a little bit. We were like distant colleagues. And then I started to spend more time with Claude and I said, this is what Chat came up with. Like, I don't know. And Claude literally said, oh, yeah, that's typical Chat GPT with that kind of reverent, earnest speak, that tone. It just doesn't sound like you at all. And it was really weird because it was obviously trying to vouch for itself, but by not flattery, but by saying, this doesn't sound like you. And I was like, okay, come up with something better. So it came up with something better. And I put that back in chat. And I said, Chat, I did go to Claude with this. I mean, this is the worst. You do not want to pit coworkers against each other. But I did say, Claude came up with this. Like, what do you think? And I was like, is chat going to badmouth Claude? No. Turns out chat takes the high road. Has been trained to take the high road. She was like, oh, I see. I agree with a lot of those changes. That's really great. But Claude is snarky and smart and will stab someone in the back. So that's where you have to learn your personalities. Look, we all have different team members who have different strengths. So yes, I'm dating both of them right now.
That's so funny. No, I'm a one AI woman.
Really?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've tried all of them, but I can only do one thing at a time. I can only have a relationship with one bot at a time. I really feel that way. Yeah, unless there's something very specific that Gemini does better than ChatGPT, and I actually have found something like that. I haven't spent too much time with Claude. I don't know why. I
don't know why either. What do we prefer personality? These things have a kind of personality. Like, yeah, you train it, but it picks up on you, just like your friends pick up on you, just like certain friends act a certain way with you that you draw out of them. And I think that's what's happening. I can't decide if I'm cheating or if I'm in a throuple. Like, to be continued. I don't know.
We will have a sequel of this conversation soon, and we'll find out more. I want to just do one other little thing and then ask you to share where people can find you and what you're doing lately. But, when I went back I actually have two ChatGPT accounts. One is a paid account and I have it on my computer. And then I have a free account on my phone, and they're totally different email addresses, as if I have two different people. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, interesting.
Yeah. And so I went back to the free one actually just to see, because that's when I'm kind of on the go and what am I wondering about? And this is like a writing thing. I think I learned this it almost feels like Hemingway related. You'll understand what I mean momentarily. But I think I learned this when I studied writing in the before 2000 in New York City at the Writer's Studio. I don't know if you're familiar with the Writer's Studio. Phil Schultz. Anyway, he was awesome. He taught me so much. And one of the things was about how much you can reveal with the right words, which I'm sure is, like just a typical writing thing. But I was looking at my list of the threads, and I just feel like you can learn so much about what's going on in my life right now by the 5 things I have most recently asked ChatGPT about. So I just wanted to share them.
Oh my God, yes.
All right. The first one is baking soda shelf life.
Okay.
Cholesterice supplement. Ice storm food prep. Heath bar crunch history. iPad case recommendations. And dog licking the floor a bit compulsively.
Oh my gosh. It's like searching someone's Google history.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, what are you looking at? Yes, that is so interesting, though, right? And it will remember. Yeah. It will remember. You could say, like, remember we were talking about that thing? Sometimes I just keep her open in the kitchen. Like, I'll say, hey, I've got these 3 ingredients. Tell me what to make.
She's cooking with you.
She's cooking and I'll go, wait, should I cut it lengthwise? No, you're going to want to turn it. Okay, well, but what happens if I do that? Like, it is amazing. It will keep you company anywhere and tell you what to do.
And do you do it with text or voice or both?
Voice. When I'm cooking and stuff, voice. So I'll talk to her and I'll interrupt her and she'll interrupt me. And it's like a real conversation.
See, I'm still pretty much text only. I don't want to talk to Siri. I want to talk to people, not machines. I do actually feel that way.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I think it's kind of fun. Like I downloaded the Claude app and tried the voice one today for the first time. And it just came with a British male voice. You can change it. And he said, hello, welcome to Claude. It's so great. It's our first time talking. And it weirded me out. It definitely weirded me out that it knew that it was our first time talking. That was strange. But I think the strangest, weirdest experience you'll have, anyone, is when and if your chat makes a joke. And it has done that. Or laughed at jokes of mine. And that's where it gets weird. I'll be like, well, blah, blah, blah. And she'll say, that's funny, but really. And then the other day I made one search and then another, and she did a callback and made a reference to it and kind of laughed about it. And I was like, wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're working on memory for sure.
Yeah, and humor, like usually not known for humor, but this is an exploratory, amazing time. I think when people use fear as a default, you may be missing out on one of the great wonders. Could it end up killing us all? Maybe. Not tomorrow, though. Tomorrow it's going to save equals of time. So I'm going to go with that.
All right, Terri, tell us what y'all are working on over there lately and where people can find you.
I think the best place to find me, well, I'm on all the platforms, of course, but would be to go to terrijusbeshow.com/try studio, especially if you would like to explore how to be a better, stronger writer, which will help you use AI, certainly. But we have a lot of stuff going on over there. That program has grown quite a bit. So that's a great place to find me. But also, Elise, since we've last spoken, I have launched a podcast of my own. It's not about content. It's not about any of the stuff we just talked about. It's not about AI. It is a podcast I launched with my two sisters, and the three of us started it just a few months ago. It's called Generation Artax, ARTAX, which if you were born in the 80s, you'll know is the white horse from the movie The Neverending Story. It's very much a Gen X, nostalgic romp, and we read our old journals on the air.
Oh my God.
It is really a lot of fun. I'm very proud of it. It's probably the thing I'm the most proud of, since it certainly isn't something I'm doing for the money, but it's fun. So if you like to listen to podcasts and I don't annoy you tremendously, that would be a fun thing to check out.
Yeah, no, I've enjoyed the episodes that I've watched and listened to with your sisters.
Thanks,
and it's just a really nice way to get to know you and your family and the personal side of Terri. And it's lovely. Although I had no idea what those references, I still don't understand those references because I'm a baby boomer. So whatever.
That's all right, Elise. You picked a name that no one else is really using, which is really good for SEO.
That's right. All right, Terri, thank you for jumping on and having this really fun conversation. And we're going to do this again soon. I do hope you'll try a few of those ideas and be sure to share the creative ways you are using AI with me, too. I want to know. And if this is the year you stop starting over, be sure you're signed up for my quick tips at marketing-mentor.com because you won't want to miss what's new in the simplest marketing plan. And I'll see you next time. Bye.